Hello everybody, so today I wanted to carry on talking to you about some of the objects that we can see in our sky, particularly at night. So yesterday we started to make our moon diary, and this was what the moon looked like last night when I came out. So it's gone to a smaller crescent shape, and some of you might remember that we said when the moon is getting smaller, it gets more and more crescent shaped, and eventually that tiny little slither will get so tiny that it looks like it's disappeared altogether, and that's what we call a new moon. So we're heading towards a new moon, and when I go out tonight I'll do the next one on my moon diary, and it'll just be a tiny little slither by tonight, I should think. And I was telling you yesterday about how we can see the moon, that the moon doesn't give out its own light, it actually reflects the light from the sun. So the shiny part of the moon is reflecting light from the sun, and that's how we get to see it. So the sun is the brightest object in our sky during the day, and the moon is the second brightest object in our sky, which we see at night time. And the third brightest object in our sky is actually a planet. So other things that we can see in our night sky is a planet. And the brightest planet that we can see in our night sky is Venus. So when I went out last night, I tried to take some photographs to show you, but my phone camera isn't very good. So I've printed off something to show you instead. So my challenge to you tonight is to go out after dark and see if you can spot some of our other bright objects in the sky. So we know that the sun is very bright in the day, the moon is the second brightest thing, and actually the planet Venus is the third brightest thing in our sky. And it's really, really easy to spot. If you go out at night, about half an hour or so after it gets dark, it's a really, really bright object in our sky. And it will appear, I don't know if you can see this on the picture that I've printed out, it appears very, very low down to the horizon, about, as I said, about half an hour after sunset, after it gets dark. That is Venus, really, really bright. The brightest thing in the sky, other than the moon at night, is Venus. So if you have a look out for that, you'll be able to spot that planet. Now this week is really, really exciting, because another planet is close to Venus that we can spot, and that is Mercury. So every now and again, some of the planets in their orbit, when they're travelling around the sun, they come very, very close together. And this week on Thursday night is one of those times when Mercury is really, really close to Venus. So you might get to see another planet as well. So if you go out at night time, once you've spotted Venus, then a bit later on, about 45 minutes to an hour after sunset, after it starts to get dark, you should, near Venus, be able to see another little bright light in the sky, and that would be the planet Mercury. Now, if you're on time, if you go out about 45 minutes after it gets dark, you should be able to see that just with the naked eye. You wouldn't need any equipment. But if you have got binoculars, you can have a look at Venus, and then if you just look up slightly into the side, you might be able to spot Mercury as well. And the moon will be nearby, so you should be able to get all three of them in a row. So that's really, really exciting. That doesn't happen very often. So it's a real opportunity this week to go out and see if you can find Venus in the night sky and another planet, Mercury. Now, as well as planets in our sky at night, the next brightest objects are obviously stars. And there are thousands and thousands of stars in our night sky. And some of them are grouped together in little patterns called constellations. And there's one that's really, really easy to spot, and it's a really, really important one, because before we had computers that could tell ships and boats where to go, how to navigate, sailors had to use the stars at night time to help them navigate. And they use one in particular which is called Polaris, which is the pole star, and it's a star that shines right over the North Pole. So if sailors are able to find Polaris, they know which direction is north, and then they can navigate to where they want to go. So if you go out at night looking for Venus, Venus is towards the south. if you turn round and face north, you might be able to find Polaris. But in order to help you, you need to find another constellation first. So this constellation is called Ursa Major, or sometimes we normally call it the Big Dipper. So what you need to do is you need to face north in your outside space after it gets dark, and you need to look up about 1/3 of the way from the horizon up to what's called the zenith, the highest point of the sky. If you look about 1/3 of the way up, you should be able to find a group of stars. There are 7 of them that form the Big Dipper, and it looks a bit like a pan that you would use to cook. If I just turn this upside down, you can see it a bit better. Here's the pan bit. These 4 stars make the pan, and then these ones make the handle. And it's near Polaris, the North Star. And what the Big Dipper does is, over the course of a year, it rotates around the pole star. So the pole star, Polaris, never moves. It's always in the same position in our night sky, and the Big Dipper, over the course of a year, will rotate around it. And when I went out last night to look, it was roughly in about that position, I think. And what you need to do to find Polaris is you draw an imaginary line from the 2 stars that make the side of the pan. You draw an imaginary line and point with your finger, join those 2 stars up, and then carry on the line, and the next star that you see twinkling in the sky is Polaris. That's the pole star above the North Pole. And it's not the brightest star in the sky, but it is one of the most important, because our sailors used to use that to navigate. So there you go, that's your challenge tonight, is to do the next moon for your moon diary. Try and find Venus, and later on in the week, if you're out, maybe you can see Mercury as well. And see if you can find Polaris, the pole star. Use the Big Dipper, find the Big Dipper to help point you in the direction of Polaris. So good luck with that, and tomorrow we're going to think about the brightest thing in our sky, which is during the daytime, and that's the sun. So I'll see you then. Bye.